for joining us. This is another J Money Mortgage webinar. Today we're talking about professionalism in real estate, and I have my lovely friend Nicole Morfas joining me. Nicole's a realtor with Highgarden, and this is a topic her and I have had many a sidebar conversation about. Nicole has been in real estate for many years and has developed a great reputation for professionalism in the industry. It's been confirmed by everyone that I know that knows her. So I didn't think there was anyone better who would do a little interview with me about what that looks like. So thanks, Nicole. Thanks.
Hi. Thanks for asking me to join. Appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How are you doing in real estate? What were you doing before real estate? How'd you get involved? Give me a little history.
Okay. A little bit about myself. I am married to Dave. We have two children, Ella, who is a junior at Purdue, and Michael, who is a freshman at IU. We're a house divided and remain that way with the legacy. We've got a 4-year-old golden doodle named Marco, and he is really fun. And he's also very barky. So if you hear any barks in the background, that's him, people watching outside. So anyhow, I graduated from Purdue in 1993 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. And I have a lot of experience in the banking and insurance industries prior to my arrival in real estate. When my daughter was born in 2002, I stepped out of the corporate world for about 5 years and was a stay-at-home mom, had baby number 2, stayed home with both those sweethearts. And then I decided to get into real estate kind of part-time, get my feet wet, and be a stay-at-home mom and a realtor at the same time. So I started out in Northwest Indiana, where I had a lot of family and friends and a lot of great connections and a sphere of people that trusted me and allowed me to help them with their real estate journey. And so that started in December of 2007. So right as the crash happened is when I decided to get a license. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. Again, I got started in December 2007. It was the financial crisis had already started to take effect with the real estate side of things. And it was a challenging time, but you know what? Baptism by fire is not so bad. And it was getting in there, and it was figuring out a very challenging market, which strangely enough, we've made a 180-degree turn and we're in a completely different market now. So in 16 years, or going into my 16th year, I have been through the craziest of times and the most stable of times, and traditional and balanced markets are nice, but no transaction is ever the same. So right. You just have to embrace what you're given. Yeah.
Sounds like you've kind of seen it. Are you someone who'd be afraid to say you've seen it all because you don't want to see it get any better or worse, or have you seen it pretty much? Have you seen it all? It's kind of cyclical. It's all just kind of different.
I don't know if this market is cyclical. I hope not, because I hope this market never circles back once we get ourselves out of it, because this is really challenging for a lot of buyers and sellers alike. Real estate agents have learned different techniques to navigate through this market. And I think it's really important to stay aware of what the trends are in the market, as well as what the lending side has to offer, and how important the homeowners insurance side of things is now too, because that market is seeing tremendous, tumultuous times right now. And I think that it's an interesting time to be in real estate. Let's just put it that way. So
for sure.
And if it goes back, I at least am prepared to, circle back to foreclosures and short sales, which I hope to not have to be experienced in that again. So
sure.
Just because it's a hard
back to the first crisis in the 07, 08 and talk about you talk about it like it was an opportunity and it was a good thing that you.
It was a great learning experience.
People have to look at it. You only have one or two ways to look at things, right? They're either opportunities to grow, or they're not. And if you don't have the right mindset, then we have a lot of folks who are leaving the industry this year because of how tough it is, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So tell me about we're talking about professionalism, and you did go to Purdue, have your college degree. Are there any specific achievements or designations that give you some street cred when it comes to teaching about professionalism? I remember what I was going to say in my intro is that you actually teach this class to new Highgarden agents as well. You actually created this curriculum. So
it just started this month. Thank you. I'm on the schedule and the calendar for next month's training schedule as well. So I kind of start things off. Highgarden puts a great amount of focus and emphasis on professionalism because they want to be a brokerage that really focuses on the individual as well as the real estate journey for their clients. So it's the high importance. Let's just put it that way. High importance of the industry, and it's very easy to kind of fall off. So I do have the Certified Luxury and Home Marketing Specialist designation through the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. So I have that. And then I also recently got my NAR designation for Senior Real Estate Specialist, which better prepares me and makes, gives me some good creative ways of helping our senior population. So those that are 50 and older. What I did learn is that I am a senior, apparently. I thought I had to hit 55, but apparently it's 50 and over to be in the senior market. So I qualify for my own designation. It's a little painful, but that's okay. But yeah, so that's really fun. I like working with I like working with every demographic with regards to move-up buyers, first-time home buyers, downsizers, right-sizers. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to apply a little bit more market knowledge when I have some of these designations, which is great because it helps me help my clients in this industry. So very excited to hold those. I also have a 5-star rating on realtor.com. So I'm very excited about that. I focus most of my business currently on past clients, repeat customers, referrals, family, friends. I will always be honored to be able to take any referral that family, friends, past clients bring to me. So the door is always open.
That's great. It's funny. I always ask realtors about this because some have a very open door. Any family and friend are good, and then some are they don't want to work with family and friends. They've had one really negative, or they just don't want to know that side of that people's life. It's just different strokes for different folks. It's
right.
Sometimes it depends on who the family member is too, I'm sure. But
right. Well, and I think that one thing that really holds true, and we'll get to this probably a little bit later in our conversation, but I think one thing that really holds true is that the confidentiality is huge in this industry. And if you don't practice it, people are not going to feel comfortable providing you with any referrals because it really is a confidential situation. And you have to honor that code of trust. And I think a lot of family and friends sometimes get nervous that you're going to find out information about their situation and then, talk about it. I never do that. Some agents might. I don't do that. I keep everything very confidential. My spouse doesn't even know. Dave doesn't even know half the time if I'm working with somebody that he might know and we're in the same household. Yes.
Blissfully ignorant, Dave.
Right.
You warned us about some barking in the background, but I'll warn you with 3 kids that they sometimes pretend to be dogs. So you might hear barking, you might hear mooing or dinosaur roars or things like that. But the nature of working from home, right?
If I see you hit with a lightsaber in the background or something ahead, I'll be totally good. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
That's the boys' house. Yeah, it's usually something violent related. So we're talking about professionalism. How would you define professionalism and why is it so important in our industry?
I thank you for that question. First of all, the impact, and I'm going to kind of refer to a couple notes right here too, if you don't mind. The impact of professionalism on business is critical because we have to focus both on client trust and satisfaction, as well as our own reputation within the industry. It's really important that your presentation and your experience with your client is stellar. You don't want them to, have a lack of trust for the industry because they had a bad experience with one agent. So you have to think the big picture in this industry because one bad experience can turn them off to every agent going forward. And so give them the right tools to succeed. And when I say give them, I mean your clients the right tools to succeed. Realistic expectations are huge, and also delivering on what you promise. And part of that is keeping them educated on the process and keeping them very informed with communication during the entire journey.
Yes. Yeah.
And then also, be respectful to one another. That's a huge thing right now with the way that, in the market that we've been dealing with for the past few years, with multiple offers and highest and best and all kinds of communication pitfalls that we can encounter, it's really important to focus on the respect and consideration of the agents involved, their clients involved. Was the offer presented? How do I have proof that their offer was presented when I went in really strong and maybe they chose something else? So lots of different complicating factors behind it, but
Sure.
it's also very important for all of us in this industry to understand that one bad experience with an agent can destroy the industry credibility as a whole.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. Great answers. And that's so many. I think in the more true in the realtor world, it's like 10% of the people are doing 90% of the work.
Right.
But there's still so many realtors out there, and yeah, not just, I mean, being respectful of each other and keep maintaining a professional reputation, because how many times have you met clients that you are starting in the hole because they've had negative interactions with folks who are a part of the industry that are not comporting themselves in a professional way? So I know it plagues a lot of experienced realtors is coming across clients that like are already stiff arming them.
Right. And it happens all the time. So it's true.
So, I mean, but speaking of clients, some of them do seem to be much more concerned with our professionalism than others. I mean, I know I've had clients who want to text me, and we send each other funny pictures, and it's very buddy and chummy and not stuffy per se. And I think you can be professional and not be too stuffy. But couldn't we just adjust our level of professionalism depending on who we're dealing with, and why or why not?
I would say yes and no. Number one, yes, it's possible to do that. It depends. My biggest thing that I have always said with regards to basically my life motto is know your audience, right? So if you're working with somebody who dresses in a suit every day and has that very professional feel about them, and they appreciate that, then I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to come in a blazer or a suit or whatever the case might be that I feel is appropriate for my clients and their comfort level, and kind of adjust to that. And then there are also clients where I show up in shorts and my Birkenstocks, and they feel very comfortable with me because I'm very comfortable in representing myself in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So it's basically knowing your audience and appreciating the fact that it's different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, not everybody's the same. It's not a package. The biggest thing about professionalism in real estate is not necessarily how you dress, but how you broach the subject of different things. Knowing your market, having an understanding where you can actually educate, going back to the education of your client, like educating your client, telling them the process. Maybe it's been 20 years since they bought a home. It's not the same market. We don't have the same, 4-page carbon copy of a purchase agreement that everybody splits off a page and gets one for their broker, their client, everything else. I started when the industry was doing that. Nothing was digital. Like, we didn't have digital documents from Indiana Association of Realtors back then. You basically were handwriting a purchase agreement or typing it out. So, times have changed, and it is a really good opportunity to sit down and go through the process with your clients, follow up with emails. Some people love to do text messages, going back to your comment earlier. Some people like to be really funny. I consider myself having a decent sense of humor, so I can enjoy the banter and the funniness going back and forth on text messages. Not everybody would appreciate that, and I get that, and I'm on to that pretty quick. So
yeah, I can confirm Nicole's got a great sense of humor.
Well, thank you.
And I think what people might find tricky, I know there'd be some realtors who might struggle with, am I being the real me if I'm dressing up for one client and not another? But I think you made the great point. It's knowing your audience. It's mirroring someone else's level of comfort. I mean, our whole in both our jobs, we're very on different sides of the industry, but it's all about building that trust, building the rapport. And so
absolutely,
it's not.
And rapport goes a long way. Yeah.
It's not disingenuous to do that. It's just knowing your audience, that it's part of being a professional.
Right. I always consider it, being your authentic self. If you see me on the other side of your kitchen table and we're having a conversation, and then you see me in the grocery store, and I may dress a little differently, but I'm still the same person, and I'm still going to be authentic. I, say hello to you, or have quick conversation. It's the authenticity of self that I
Yeah.
think is really important.
Yeah.
So
True. So you mentioned market knowledge towards the end of that answer, which is a great segue to my next question. It does. Would you say market knowledge just means knowing what the market trends are, or is there more to that?
so much more to that. So much more to that. Market knowledge is not only, pulling up the information on the BLC and generating, listing, listings to take your client out to show them homes. It is knowing the neighborhoods, it's knowing the amenities of the neighborhood, it is knowing the surrounding areas, knowing the school districts, really having a good pulse on where they're looking to go, so that you can provide your clients with as much information and knowledge about their big purchase. Doesn't matter what the dollar amount is, it's a big purchase, real estate is. And being able to really be their guide on the journey. And I keep going back to the real estate journey because it's not a transaction. A transaction, technically speaking, you start, you put an offer in, it gets accepted, you close. That's not as simple as real estate is. Real estate has so many different loopholes in it where you really have to be in the know. You have to know about loans. You have to know about the insurance portion of things. And I'm not saying I'm going to be a lender. I'm not going to say be an insurance agent either. But you have to have good,
Yeah.
but you have to have good connections within those industries as well, in order to help guide people into the, go check out this rate here or this broker here, or see what kind of product lines are gonna suit your needs. And I think market knowledge is more than just, here's the BLC sheet, this is what this house has to offer. And even with trends can be bucked at any time too. So
Mm-hmm.
you can have a house in a neighborhood that the houses are selling for 100,000 over what that house is truly worth in the market because of condition, and you have to explain to them that, that pricing and how things get to, the overall evaluation that we have to bring to the table for them. So.
Love that. Yeah, great answer. And I think one thing I think I've always appreciated about you, you always exhibit a level of curiosity. I think more than other realtor partners of mine, you reach out with questions and you're curious about the rationale of why things are the way they are on the lending side. It's like it's a big, I always joke the lender world is a million miles wide and an inch deep. It's like I don't have to know too much depth about any one thing, but there are a million things to know. And so some realtors just want to know, what are the steps for this program right now? But you've always kind of dug the second question of why is it, why do they accept this and not that, or what are they asking this for and not that? So there's a level of curiosity I think that helps you a lot in your particular field of market knowledge. So.
Yeah, I like to peel back the onion, because
Yes.
you really get to the, the true answer when you're peeling back. Why would they do that? Why would this type of loan require that and this one doesn't? And the other thing is too, there are a lot of and we'll probably talk about this in a little bit too, but there are a lot of agents that, they're trying to do their best to help their client, but at the same time they could be doing a great disservice to them if they start talking about things that they're not very well versed on or licensed to practice. That could be, you have a license to do loans, right? You have you're licensed to procure loans out there, and you have the expertise for that. I don't have the expertise for that. And that market changes so quickly and so dramatically from different things that come in from federal regulations and that side of it, that I never want to venture into that. I'll have the conversation with that lender and find out, what type of loan program my client's going to choose, and so that I know how to write an appropriate purchase agreement based on that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to venture into being the expert in insurance and loans and inspections and legal situations. I'm not going to be your financial advisor. I stay clear of that, because somebody else needs to be the expert when they're working with your client.
Love that. Love that. I can't tell you how many new realtors I meet with, and I tell them it's okay to stay in your lane. It's
Yep.
okay to say you don't know. It's if you say I don't know and let me find out for you, or I don't know, let's talk to your lender about that together. You're still being professional. You're still
Right.
giving them the answer. It's not unprofessional to say you don't know. And I think too many new realtors are scared into thinking they have to
You got
keep
to know all.
compliant, they have to know it all. But
Yeah.
the dangers there we've always talked about. I use these if you tell them something wrong, and now I have to walk it back and still make you look like the quarterback, and still make you look good, but also correct you. It's puts everyone in a tricky spot. So.
Right. It's more professional to say I don't know something, but let me follow up and get that right information from the right source and actually follow up.
Yeah.
That's part of the equation too. Part of professionalism is the follow up that I think is challenging in this industry, for a multitude of reasons. But I definitely think that that's part of what is so important about professionalism, and kind of getting a refresher course on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we talked about licenses and we talked about confidentiality. So when we're talking about legal or ethical responsibilities of a realtor, what does that entail?
Thank you for bringing that up. Let me pull up my information really quick so that I can kind of give you. So, realtors that are actual realtors, like that's a designated name that you can only use if you are associated with the National Association of Realtors. By that, you have to abide by the Code of Ethics. Code of Ethics is updated every year, and they send it out to realtors in different formats. Sometimes it's like a little tear out sheet that you'll get in your realtor magazine. Other times you just go look it up online and they'll have updated information. The biggest thing about that is these are guidelines for us that need to be abided by. It talks about what our responsibilities are to the public, what our responsibilities are to each other, and the biggest thing is the golden rule when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about one another. And the golden rule is it goes far beyond do unto others. Sometimes you'd be okay with somebody doing something to you that you probably shouldn't do to somebody else, like with regards to just an ethical decision. Or another big thing is realtors sometimes get in the way of the transaction, and that's something that we need to stop, reflect, pull the ego out. This is not a win or lose. This is a negotiation. So both parties, or in our situation, 4 parties to the transaction, because you have 2 realtors, you have buyer and the seller. They have to agree to the negotiated terms. It's not a win. Now I'm going to win and you're going to lose, and I'm going to get the better deal for my client and your client's going to suffer. It shouldn't be that way. Sometimes the ego allows us to get off track of what it really is. And sometimes clients' decisions are made by the realtor, and they should not be that either. You should inform your client, you should educate your client, and clients make decisions. We are not the decision maker. Yeah. And then also we do have fiduciary responsibilities to our clients. And one of the biggest things that I always say, and we just kind of went over this briefly, is don't give advice on subjects that you are unfamiliar with or are not licensed to provide. Yeah. Don't accidentally practice law or become a financial advisor. If you're not licensed or qualified or have the background skills to do it. And then again, we just went over this. If you don't know the answer, find it out, and then get back to them. Follow up is important. If you're going to get the answer and then you never follow up, what was the point of even saying I'll get back to you? There's no point to that.
It's tricky. Yeah, there's a lot involved, and I think some brokerages do a better job than others, I think, of preparing the folks who have never been in the industry before to abide by those things. And there are other, some brokerages are known for bringing in new folks and having lots of training and having lots of resources. And there's other brokerages that are, I think Highgarden is one of the ones that's a little more established. They typically end up bringing people in that have been in the industry before, so it's not as much. But also, I think they also got a very professional reputation. Because of that, because they're bringing in folks who've already got the experience. So.
Yeah. And the ones that are brand new agents, where, they've really just gotten their license established in the state, and they're looking for a brokerage to go to. And I'm not going to plug it, but I'm kind of going to plug it. But, Highgarden's really good at training, and you're not going to learn how to sell real estate in your class that you're taking to get your license. It doesn't happen. You're going to learn all the laws. You're going to retain about 20% of all the stuff you learned. And then you have to be trained into how to pull correct information. What is the right data to show your client? How do you keep yourself the educated one in the conversation? You have to do that so that, the people expect the agent to know more than the general public. And so, it's really important to stay ahead of the game, to be knowledgeable about different changes in the industry, to be knowledgeable about different changes in, loan programs and things like that. And really just, keep your continuing education updated, make sure you do that. Code of ethics, of course, has to be done every 3 years. And, it's just, and get some different designations. If you have an interest in foreclosures or short sales, or you have an interest, which is considered distressed properties, or if you have interest in, working with investors, they have all kinds of awesome programs out there, not just from NAR with those designations, but from other area experts that you can get accredited for that. So,
love that. Yeah. There is. It's a wealth. There's so much.
Never stop learning. Right.
Never stop learning. Right. Yeah. I think Zig Ziglar was the one. If you're green, you grow. If you're ripe, you rot. So you gotta keep growing. You gotta keep. Don't ever consider yourself arrived. Yeah. Especially in an industry like ours, where there's 1,000 subjective things about you talk about the real estate journey, and sometimes your journey with a client could cover 10 different houses because you're their realtor that's going to walk them through. But every one of those 10 transactions is going to be different. Right. It's the same person. They're buying a house. It's not like they switch from buying a house to a motorcycle. They're buying the same thing, but it's a different property. It's different credit scores. It's different debt ratio. I mean, I'm on the lending side. I'm using on my lending terms, but it's you have to be able to stay. So staying abreast of the market with market knowledge, staying up to date on legal and ethical responsibilities. Let's shift gears. Etiquette. How would you define etiquette, and what are some examples of good etiquette that realtors can display? Or if you have some bad ones, throw off some of those out too.
There's some challenging things to etiquette, and like you take for instance when you're showing homes, and this is a big factor. And I even have like a little list of things that I'm going to refer to when I'm talking about this. So when you're showing homes, you have to request the showing online. Very rarely do you actually call the agent to request a showing in this day and age. You have to wait for it to be confirmed. So either the client has to confirm it or the agent has to confirm it, and you have to wait for confirmation before you enter that property. If you're not confirmed, don't enter the property. It's very simple. Some people don't understand that. They think, I scheduled it, I know it's ready to go. They don't wait for confirmation, and then bad things can go from there. I'm just going to say. Be on time. People have left their homes and they probably cleaned up and straightened all their toys and everything else that they have for their kiddos or their pets or whatever. Be on time. Don't make them wait in their car or riding around the block because you decided that your client drove past the house and doesn't like it after all. Go in the house, even if it's by yourself. Go in the house at your appointed time and give feedback where it's necessary. So, I mean, we're in this together. We're helping our clients. We're helping other agents get the transaction that they're looking for, get it done, and be professional the whole way you go. Don't ever stand up a showing or what am I trying to say? Don't ever be a no-show at a showing appointment that you have requested. Cancel if you need to do a reschedule for something last minute. Monitor your clients. Do not let your clients roam the home by themselves. If it's a vacant home, that might be the only exception. And when I say vacant, I mean that there's no furniture in there. There's nothing that can be disrupted. And, that would maybe be the only exception of not monitoring your clients. And the reason being is because you want to take them through the home. Your job is to tour it and to, point out different, assets or maybe even liabilities to the home. You want to be there to do your job and to provide the advice that you're being hired to do. So, and then one big thing, somehow or another, this has become a problem, and I'm not really sure how it got to this point in our industry. Only the registered agent should be accessing the lockbox. There have been incidents in the recent past that either somebody is filling in for them and it's not the registered agent. We live in not only that, so the non-registered agent is accessing the house and providing the tour or letting clients in, whatever the case might be. There are also incidents where the clients are given the code to a house without an agent present. These are strange times in which we're living. I'm just going to say that.
When you
A
say
client
someone
should
that's a
never have access to
non-licensed
the camera.
realtor, is that like their assistant is showing up, or is it like a transaction coordinator, or who would be in that? Maybe like a
Sometimes,
realtor's
yeah,
friend.
it could, it has to be somebody who's licensed, quite
Right.
honestly.
Right.
So they should not be showing a house unless they're licensed. Sometimes it could be an assistant. Sometimes it could be somebody else in the office who's covering them if they are double booked or have a, an emergency in the family or something like that. But both the seller as well as the listing agent should always be notified if there's a change of persons coming to the
Right.
front door.
Right.
We live in an age where everything is being monitored, both maybe audio and video monitored by clients. If Joe Schmo is making an appointment to show this house, and Nina Nimble shows up to show it, that's not Joe Schmo. What's this woman doing in my house? So we have to be aware of the fact that, if you're making the appointment, you have the ability to make it because number one, you're licensed and you are registered with the BLC and MIBOR, and that also you are giving feedback that you should be providing to the listing agent and your experience with your client going through the home, because that's also something else that's should be done and required.
Right. Yeah. So, last year I had some buyers that were going on their final walkthrough, and their agent communicated with the listing agent. Listing agent said, "Go for it." Never told the sellers that people were coming. Alarms sensors went off. There were police that came to the house. I mean, it was a whole mess, just because that listing agent just forgot to have to mention, they're doing their final walkthrough in your house, and it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you need to be authorized. You're on somebody else's property until that, until the title is transferred to the new owner. You don't right. have the right to be in somebody else's home. So, it's definitely becoming more and more commonplace that I'm hearing this.
Yeah. Well, thanks for clarifying, because that was, the non-licensed realtor. It sounds like that could be, a realtor in a scramble that maybe double booked themselves is just like tossing it to the secretary can go and do this showing for me, but they really have to be licensed to.
Yeah. Or my friend, or my spouse, or whatever. No, not unless they're licensed and made the appointment. Why are they doing that? So it is interesting. And then feedback too. Our feedback system is interesting because the feedback that we provide to agents can go to the seller as well, unbeknownst to an agent. So sometimes agents get maybe a little too critical, a little too unprofessional, and what feedback they're providing to the listing agent. And I think it's really important for people to know that not only could you be making it very uncomfortable for the listing agent, you can be embarrassing the seller too. And we're not here to do that. We're here to give them points like, maybe it was just the layout of the property that my client didn't like, or, maybe the exterior landscaping needs to be cleaned up a little bit to help with curb appeal. I mean, there are just so many kind ways that you can give feedback that's effective and truthful without being demeaning to anybody. So I think that is another thing that is lost in professionalism translation. So
yeah, truth doesn't always have to be sharp, right?
Right.
Yeah, like that. Well, speaking of feedback and communication, we've discussed how we can show professionalism in our education and how we can show professionalism in our actions. So let's switch gears to communication. That'll kind of wrap us up, these a couple questions. What would you say are some key markers of professional communication?
Having a voicemail set up on a phone that actually has your name and not just your phone number. Your name and if you want to venture out into, like, my voicemail says my name as well as Highgarden, so people know the company that I'm associated with when it's attached to my phone number. The other thing is setting up a voicemail, checking your inbox and deleting it so that it's not full. There's nothing more frustrating than dialing somebody's phone number, going to voicemail, and then saying the inbox is full to me. And then texting in not paragraphs. Don't text in paragraphs unless it's some direct follow-up you have on a particular property that you have to give all these details. Be respectful of people's time, be respectful of people's text messages. I would say, follow up with an email in most circumstances, just to reiterate the conversation, have it documented. I would say, don't use all caps. We all kind of have heard that in the past, and it's still tried and true. Don't do all caps, because everybody thinks you're mad, even if you're not.
We're reading it as a joke. Yeah.
Exactly. Exclamation points, use them if you're excited about something, but not angry about something. So I think that it would be well respected and appreciated if people just communicate. And that means if we have an offer I have put in to a listing agent for my buyer clients, that the listing agent acknowledge the fact that they've received my email offer, as well as let me know that it has been presented, or there is an extension of time because of multiple offers and highest and best will go out, or whatever the case is. The market had changed so quickly in such a short period, quickly in a short period of time, but it was like everybody and their etiquette was thrown out the door. Like, nobody cared. They're just trying to, get the highest dollar. And if you didn't get that, and I'm guilty of that too. When this market started changing and I was doing, I had the listings and I was doing highest and best, like, I wasn't necessarily communicating to 18 different agents that put an offer in, that we picked a different offer. And that's bad on my part. And I learned from that. I learned not to do that. And I think part of professionalism is self-awareness, which we may or may not cover that or not, but self-awareness and knowing how you can do better the next time, because we're all human and we all make mistakes, and we all probably cringe at some of the stuff we've done in the past, but it's self-awareness of knowing what the feedback was with the original communication or transaction, and learning from that and how to be better, be more polished, be more professional. Again, coming back to the need for this little seminar.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Thanks for the vulnerability there, sharing your own struggles with that. I mean, that was for sure. The multiple offers, the 27, or what is that? I knew a gal with Century 21, and she was on the newspaper for fielding like 70 some offers on a property. And it was like, I doubt, I have a hard time thinking she had the time to call 70 people, but it's what the expectation is there.
Exactly.
And there's a lot there. No, you mentioned, so communication, I mean, I think that's going to be the theme throughout the whole thing. I mean, timely communication, clear communication. My own family knows, do not be texting me anything longer than is my phone screen. I'm going to send back too long, shorten it. I don't have time to read 16 pages of text message. But you can record your voice and send me a voice memo if that's something you think I'm going to listen to.
Exactly.
There's other ways to do it, but my own sisters are like, man, he's savage.
Right. Well, and part of that is, if your voicemail box was cleared out, I could leave a voicemail in detail and not leave a 2-minute voice. Nobody leaves 2-minute voice. Well, some people leave 2-minute.
Some people do. Yeah.
Yeah. I might be one of those on occasion, but very rarely. But that's another thing too. Like, if you don't want it in a text message, leave your voice mailbox open and available. So. Yeah.
I also, it's funny that phone companies haven't started flipping. Like, if a voicemail is full, couldn't you tell me that at the beginning of the message instead of making me hear the whole voicemail greeting first? Like, just say, you can't do anything at this point. The voicemail is full. Try texting.
Right. Exactly.
Although, pro tip, if you know someone that leaves a really lengthy voicemail message, if you hit 1 or star, it can usually fast forward to the beep where you can just leave your message. So that's something I found.
Good tip. I didn't know that. So thank you for that one.
So let's talk about some examples where you've seen a lack of. We've covered a couple. I don't know if you have anything else that stands out as far as examples of lack of professionalism. I can give one while you're waiting, while you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that probably, from my own personal experiences of being in this industry for so long, and again, making mistakes and correcting, course correcting, right? And doing that is, everybody gets started at one point in time in this industry. Everybody did. Mm-hmm. Nobody was born into this industry and had all the knowledge and experience that maybe somebody who's been in the industry for 50 years has had. I think one of the things is being kind and understanding, and not to new agents, I should say, to brand new agents or newer agents, being kind and understanding. And they're going to make mistakes, and I mean, sorry, I probably will roll my eyes at different things, but then, they come back to straight on. And I
Right.
want to help people because we're all in this together. And so, if they're making mistakes, or they forgot to do something, gentle reminders, again, going back to communication, gentle reminders, and just keeping people on track and on course is going to help everybody in the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to, when I first got started, I had 5 years of real estate experience outside of this area when we moved here in 2012. And I had a transaction with an agent who saw my number, saw it was a newer number, and treated me as that. And I was horrified. I was horrified because I had the experience, I had knowledge, and I could not believe that that person was telling me how many years of experience she had, and that she basically was trying to take control of the transaction. That's what it was. I mean, it was an ego trip, and she was trying to control this transaction. But and then, unfortunately, then I came back with, well, I'm not new to this industry, and so that just didn't help anything either. I should have just dealt with what I was, the cards I was being dealt from, her mouth, and just dealt with it in a more professional way. But at the same time, I think the point I'm trying to make is be kind to everybody. No two transactions are ever the same. So we're all, in this experimental industry where, this is not the same house. This is not the same client. This is not the same loan. It's not the same transaction. Everybody needs to be polite and respectful and honest, and leave the ego at the curb. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. My story with Chem from Personal was a few years back. A friend of mine graciously let me help her with the loan process, and then she was just like the first domino in like 5 of her friends that were finding their first house. And so that year, this friend of mine became like one of my biggest referral sources because she kept giving my name to these friends, and she'd
Awesome.
also give the name of her realtor to these friends. And her realtor at the time was I think a husband of a colleague of hers, and he was part-time and was not keeping up with the trends. Not I think he pretty much committed the cardinal sins of everything we listed in this webinar. And to the extent where a processor asked him for seller's disclosures and lead-based paint, which at that point had been required on every transaction I'd already ever done for several years. And I think it was even before I started in 18 where those were required to be sent to the lender.
Yeah.
And this realtor sent an email back to the processor, used all caps in certain areas, and was trying to express this frustration that why this company always asks for these documents and no other lender I work with asks for these things. And this is why I don't send referrals to your company, because you require extra. And my poor processor was newer, and she thought, oh my goodness, we have a realtor relationship that's in jeopardy, and sent it to the higher ups and copied me. And I had to reply all in my private communication with my company. I was very dismissive to the point of this is not someone who does a lot of business. The only business they do is because we have the same referral source giving us
Right.
these things.
Right.
My email back to the realtor was, this was not an appropriate way to address my processor. If you have issues with what we're asking for, you can bring those to me directly.
Right.
And also, every transaction I've ever done requires these things. So I don't know if you missed that class that told you that's a thing. Also, it's a PDF. I'm not asking you to hand deliver this with laminate. Like, you can just email it to me. It takes 2
Oh, the
seconds.
attachment.
It's already
The
something you
attachment.
have.
Yeah.
It's not something new I'm asking you to produce even. I was
Right.
just bowled over, but it was bad communication, not knowledgeable about the legal factors of the industry. There was just
Right.
a lot going on there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they're in the industry anymore. R.I.P. So
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it is having a sense of humor. And for those that don't have a sense of humor, please get one, because if you find yourself in a situation where you literally just need to laugh before people start like getting mad at each other, you have to find that common ground. Just find something to laugh about, cool off the situation, and move forward professionally.
yeah,
So I
yes,
think that's a big thing, is
that's
just
huge.
having, take a breather.
Yeah, talking about it is a big purchase, and it is a big decision, and it's usually among the most stressful things people do in their life: buying a home, selling a home, moving in general, losing a loved one, divorce. That's all up there in the top five. But it
Right.
doesn't have to be the most emotionally traumatic thing that goes on either, and a lot of that is going to be the realtors setting the tone with their communication. And let's major in the majors and minor in the minors, right? Not every
Right.
little hiccup in the transaction needs to be all out war.
Catastrophic. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So apart from this webinar, what would be some other ways realtors could sharpen their professionalism skills? And there's a ton of there's lots of, this one's chock full of goodness, this webinar, but what other things could they be doing?
Yeah, they should be, maybe considering coaching or mentoring. Find somebody that you either pay as an independent coach, or find a mentor, somebody who has years of experience in the industry and can provide, real life examples or good advice based on their past experiences. Another thing is building your brand. We're all independent contractors. Well, I shouldn't say all. I would say most of us. There might be a few companies out there that actually do hiring of agents as staff, but generally speaking, we're all independent contractors. The more you can build your brand, especially with the way that social media is nowadays, if you're not on it, you're not in it, basically, because you have to be engaged. I'm not a huge fan of social media. I kind of forced myself to do it, and it if and it does help. You can put listings out there, you can advertise different things that different partnerships you might have with some designers or painters or different contractor resources and stuff like that too. So and it's just staying top of mind for people. I think social media is a good way to do that. Sometimes I just am sick of it and I just turn it off because I don't even want to like anything or else anymore. But at the same time, it's here to stay, and we have to get the warm and fuzzies about it. Another thing is too, me personally, I only hire professional photographers. I think that it is much too important to represent the house in truly the best lighting possible, right? Because that's how professional photographers do it, and they know what they're looking for and how to capture that image and how to make that maybe a plain room look great. So I hire a professional photographer. I also have signs that have my name and phone number on them, along with my company's logo and information. And then I also have signposts installed so that the professional sign is hanging from a nice white post and not just, something that's shoved into the yard that, could easily get a nicer view from somebody driving down the street.
Mm.
So a couple tips on that. You can create a logo or pay for somebody to create a logo for yourself or a team or a group if you have that. And then, so many different ways that you can do it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Another way, speaking of technology, another thing that I think is really big, and I spoke about this early on, is that I am a 5-star agent on realtor.com, asking for client testimonials or feedback or ratings. Also, reaching out to the other side of the table and that other agent that was in the transaction or the lender and getting feedback from them. You can do Google reviews, whatever is available out there, Yelp, all different kinds of.
Yep.
I think it's really important, that you appreciate somebody else's opinion and feedback of how that transaction went versus just kind of being one-sided and saying, oh, this is great, closed, and they got their keys. No, it's not necessarily the way that you want it to end. You want it to end where, you want to do a transaction with that person again.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. I mean, so much of that just goes towards giving that great service for the first transaction or every transaction. A repeat client, is that as good or better than a word of mouth referral? I feel like it might even be better than
Right.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
they just
In a repeat agent, there are some agents I would love to do every transaction with because it was just so nice and fun and easy and respectful, and everybody got along, and there were any types of bumps in the roads were corrected quickly and smoothly,
Oh,
and
sure, sure.
everybody,
Oh,
came to a happy place at the closing table. So it was, that right there is priceless.
and
So,
we didn't even really cover that, but yeah, when you're the listing agent and you get 3 offers and you recognize the name of one of the realtors on the offer and you know that person is going to handle themselves professionally and come to the agreements you mentioned earlier. It's not a compromise, it's not a win-lose, it's an agreement between 2 parties and they have the right mindset. I mean, that is a part of the offer. I mean, it's
right,
not something you can necessarily. I don't know if it's something you can speak to the legal ramifications. It's not like you can say we're going with this one because I like this person, but
yeah,
it's going to be a factor. It's going to be a if it can't be a legal factor or a reason to accept, it's going to be something that factors
right,
into the buyer's or the seller's decision making because they want to know that the agent that's on the other side is going to be someone that's not going to jerk them around. So,
right. And like, I can't emphasize enough to keep yourself out of the transaction and out of the situation as an agent. You have to remove yourself. But what you can do, if the offers are similar, the offers are equal, everything else being the same, and you can tell your client, hey, I've done a transaction with this agent before. It went really smooth, and they're not looking to make things difficult for anybody involved in the transaction. You might want to consider this too, just for that fact. Or I don't know if I would say things negatively about another agent. I might just only stick with the positives. I wouldn't say, oh, I had a transaction with this person, it was awful, let's not pick this. It's not my choice of what decision they make, of what offer they go with, and who that agent's going to be.
oh,
Again,
okay,
we all need to get along well in the sandbox, right?
sure,
So, no
sure.
kicking dirt. And and it's my
Loophole,
client's decision. All I
the
can do is
loophole there could
educate.
be this agent's really good and this agent also exists.
I try to stay away from the negativity. If there's a positive comment, I try to go with the positives and, be silent with the rest. So,
Love that. Love that. Well, clearly I made the right choice with the realtor who was teaching us about professionalism. So we're at the hour mark and I want to respect your time. So
oh goodness, that was fast. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
I'm
if we have
hungry.
questions from the crowd, we can put them in the chat, and I'll email and kind of set up some individuals for you. But for now, I just want to say thank you for being a professional realtor, thank you for being a good friend and coming on my webinar with me and presenting, and thank you for having that abundance mentality that you put out the good and the resources and help. I know you mentioned mentoring and coaching, and I know you've done that in a lot of professional and not unprofessional, formal and informal ways. But that's just everything I know about Nicole Morfas is abundance mentality and wanting to help out others and folks who are behind her on the journey to help them in their next steps. So appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Thanks, Justin. It was good to be on your interview list today. So thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right.